It sounds like a joke, but it was an international crisis sparked by a tree. This was no ordinary tree, and this was no ordinary place. The world held its breath over branches needing trimming in the Korean demilitarized zone. 1976, the Cold War was a terrifying reality. This incident could have started another war. Tensions between North and South Korea were always high. The United States military stood with South Korea, a promise, a guarantee. Any spark could ignite the Korean peninsula, and that spark came from a poplar tree. A tree that obstructed the view in the joint security area, Panmunjom, the only place where North and South Korean forces stood face to face. The tree blocked the line of sight for United Nations Command observers. The operation to deal with this problem was named Operation Paul Bunyan. Named after the mythical American lumberjack, it suggested a mighty effort. But the name hid the deadly seriousness. This was about power, resolve, and drawing a line with an axe, and a massive show of force. The Korean Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, is one of the most militarized borders on Earth. A scar across the Korean peninsula, 2.5 miles wide, 150 miles long. Barbed wire, landmines, guard posts, soldiers staring, waiting. It was a relic of a war that never officially ended, just paused. Two Koreas, divided since 1945, fought a brutal war from 1950 to 1953. The armistice agreement stopped the fighting but did not bring peace. North Korea, communist and isolated, South Korea, capitalist and allied with the West. They existed in a state of perpetual confrontation, a powder keg. Life in the joint security area was surreal, soldiers from both sides mere feet apart, constantly observing each other, silent glares, occasional taunts. This was the front line of the Cold War in Asia. Every action was scrutinized, every word weighed. A misstep or misunderstanding could lead to violence quickly. The tension was a living thing, almost touchable. Small incidents were not uncommon, each with the potential to escalate. Trust did not exist here, only suspicion and deep-seated animosity. The DMZ was a symbol of division, unresolved conflict, and a distant dream of peace. It was a Wednesday morning, August 18, 1976. A seemingly routine mission began to trim the poplar tree near the Bridge of No Return. 5 Korean Service Corps workers carried axes and tools, escorted by a U.S. security team, led by Captain Arthur Boniface and First Lieutenant Mark Barrett, experienced officers. They understood the DMZ, knew the risks, but this was tree trimming, not combat. The North Koreans had been informally notified, no major objections were anticipated. Suddenly, North Korean soldiers appeared, led by a senior lieutenant, Pak Chul. Initially they watched, then Pak Chul told the UNC group to stop. He claimed Kim Il-sung himself had planted the tree. Captain Boniface ordered his men to continue. The verbal confrontation escalated. Pak Chul sent for reinforcements. About 20 more North Korean guards arrived. They carried crowbars, clubs, and the axes dropped by the work party. The North Koreans attacked without warning, swarming the surprised Americans and South Koreans. Captain Arthur Boniface was beaten, bludgeoned to death by the North Koreans. First Lieutenant Mark Barrett was also attacked, found dead later. It was a massacre over a tree. The world was shocked. The news reached Washington, D.C., landing like a bombshell. 2 American officers murdered in cold blood in the DMZ. The initial reaction was disbelief, then profound anger. This was an outrageous act of aggression, an unprovoked attack. President Gerald Ford and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger were furious. This demanded a strong response. High-level meetings convened at the White House and the Pentagon. Retaliation was on the table, but cooler heads prevailed. The goal was clear: demonstrate unwavering commitment to South Korea. The plan that emerged was codenamed Operation Paul Bunyan. It was audacious, risky, designed to be an overwhelming show of force. The objective was simple: the poplar tree would be cut down completely. This was symbolic, but the message was far greater than the tree itself. It was a message of American power and determination. The planning was meticulous and swift. The operation had to be executed flawlessly. It involved forces from the U.S. Army, Air Force, and the Republic of Korea Army. Every detail mattered: the timing, the deployment of troops, the rules of engagement. The potential for North Korean counteraction was very real. This was not a bluff. This was a nation preparing to make a definitive statement. 3 days after the murders, August 21, 1976. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Operation Paul Bunyan began. The dawn air over the DMZ filled with the sound of helicopters, dozens of them, UH-1 Iroquois, AH-1 Cobra gunships, CH-47 Chinooks. They ferried troops and provided air cover, a clear signal of intent. On the ground, a convoy of American and South Korean vehicles rolled into the JSA. 16 U.S. Army engineers, armed with chainsaws, supported by a 64-man U.S. Special Forces team. They were ready for anything, absolutely anything. Further back, American and South Korean infantry and artillery units were deployed. Tanks were in position. B-52 Stratofortress bombers flew from Guam. Their presence was a chilling reminder of U.S. strategic capabilities. The aircraft carrier USS Midway was stationed offshore. This was a military operation of immense scale. The engineers went to work, the chainsaws roared to life. North Korean soldiers rushed to their guard posts, watched, astonished. They outnumbered the engineers at the tree, but were massively outgunned. In 42 minutes it was over, the poplar tree was felled, its trunk was deliberately left, a monument of sorts. The mission was accomplished without a single shot fired by the task force. The North Koreans were stunned into inaction. They had watched the massive display of force, seen the determination. Their initial response was to issue defiant statements, condemning the American provocation. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. The message had been received, loud and clear. Later that day, Kim Il-sung issued a statement through the Military Armistice Commission. He expressed regret over the August 18th incident. For North Korea, this was a significant concession. It was enough to de-escalate the immediate crisis. The US accepted it as a step back from the brink. The world had watched with extreme anxiety. The Korean Peninsula was a known flashpoint. The axe murders and the massive US military response had all the ingredients for a new war. When the tree fell, and the North Koreans did not retaliate militarily, there was a collective sigh of relief. Diplomacy, backed by overwhelming force, had seemingly worked, but the underlying tensions in the DMZ remained unchanged. The United States had made its point: it would not tolerate attacks on its personnel. Operation Paul Bunyan, a bizarre footnote in Cold War history. An enormous military operation to cut down one tree. The absurdity is undeniable, but beneath it lay a deadly serious lesson. A lesson in brinkmanship and the high stakes of confrontation. The incident demonstrated the volatility of the Korean DMZ, how quickly a seemingly minor issue could escalate. The axe murders were a brutal act, the US response a calculated risk, a demonstration designed to restore deterrence, to show that some lines cannot be crossed, even if that line is drawn around a single tree. The stump of the poplar tree was left, a silent testament. A stone monument was erected nearby, honoring Captain Arthur Boniface and First Lieutenant Mark Barrett. Their deaths highlighted the ever-present danger faced by those who serve on that tense frontier. Operation Paul Bunyan remains a complex legacy, a display of overwhelming force, a moment when the world teetered, a response to murder, at its core, about a poplar tree, a symbol of defiance, a symbol of resolve, a chilling reminder that in the most dangerous places on Earth, even the smallest dispute can have enormous consequences. The fragility of peace, the ever-present shadow of war, that is the lesson of the tree.